When it comes to creating for YouTube, one of the biggest problems you're going to face is burnout, because building a YouTube channel is extremely difficult, especially when you're a solo creator. Even if you've got 10, 20, 30, 40,000 subscribers, it's really difficult to keep going with the amount of work you have to put in, especially when you go on a run of 10 out of 10s or just a run of failure. And what I've found is a simple method to help keep it interesting. And it's called the one for me, one for you method. At least that's what I call it. Let's jump into it. This video is brought to you by our system VidStew. Get a 30-day free trial now, or use the free version wherever if you like. So in our last video, we talked about picking YouTube topics, and I think that method works brilliantly. But the problem with that method is twofold. One is pigeonholing, and the other is, of course, burnout. And what I've come up with is a solution that works really well for me and solves both of these problems. What I mean by that is just a quick recap on the last video. When it comes to picking topics, you want to make sure that those topics apply, or at least will be useful to people who've watched your last videos, right? Because YouTube tests with those people first and then finds lookalike audiences for those. So the growth hack on YouTube, which isn't really a growth hack, is basically create videos that your audience would want to watch. It's pretty simple. The problem with that is it can put you into a hole of just doing the same type of videos week in, week out, which will pigeonhole you, limit your growth eventually. Obviously, it could be in the millions. So, people will be like, oh, well, pigeonhole me. It's like, man, you're getting 5,000 views. Let's not worry about that yet. But, eventually, when you get to the millions of views, it can pigeonhole you. And the other part of that is it's just dull. And if you create YouTube videos, on some level, you're an artist, you're a creative person, you like to create things, right? If you didn't, and you're just in YouTube for the money, you're probably going to burn out anyway, to be honest, because it's kind of a creative field and you're probably going to get someone else to run the channel after a while anyway. So let's just assume you're a creative person, because you probably are. My method to get around this is simple. I call it one for me, one for you. The better way to put this would be one for me, one for the audience, right? And what I mean by that is, what I've done with all of my channels now is switch to this method. And interestingly, it helps me kind of find new audiences as well. So there's a benefit to this in two folds, right? So I'm going to just get to what I mean by that. By doing this, if I, for example, pick a video that I know will work with the audience, that means my kind of itch to get views is scratched, right? I do one video which I know will absolutely bang with the people who've just watched my last 3 bangers, and we push that out, right? I pick a topic that I know those people will love. And I get to give them that, and I keep building views, and the channel grows, and we're all happy, right? Then what I want to do is pick one for me. I want to pick a video that I just really want to create. Now, obviously, it has to be within the rough niche of the channel or within the same format of the channel, whatever way your channel's built. But the point is, this one is more for you. And you stop kind of giving a damn about that audience, right? And by doing that, you're creating something that you really want to create. And it stops the burnout. Because if you're creating weekly for different channels like I am, you get to do the one for the audience, you see the views pop, you're all happy. And then the next one is one for you that you just kind of know your expectation is it's not going to be a banger. It might hopefully be a 3 or 4 or 5 out of 10. It's probably not going to be a 1 out of 10. Hey, it might be a 10 out of 10. But you know what? You go into it with that knowledge, the creativity flows, and you just get to enjoy something that when you upload, if it does better than 10 out of 10, you're surprised. You're happy. You kind of start getting through the one for your audience and making it to get to the next one that you just want to make for yourself, because you've done the work and now you get to enjoy the next process. It keeps the fun going. So it really stops burnout, and it really helps to kind of make sure that you kind of give your all to the one that is for the audience, because you get that done and you're like, right, I've earned my 1 out of 10. Now I get to enjoy my 10 out of 10. But the interesting flip to that is that over time, these 10 out of 10s actually turn into 3 out of 10s and the occasional 1 out of 10, and end up growing your channel in a way that you wouldn't have expected. And because you don't care about the initial 10 out of 10, you end up getting bizarrely creative freedom, but also you get a much wider audience. Because what's happening is these 10 out of 10s, right, are not working with most of your audience. But there's a certain subset that likes them. And YouTube, as I've explained in the last video, will start to then test what the lookalike audiences of those are. So when you publish another video that maybe is similar to one of your one for me's, it has more audience data to test that with. It knows what works and what doesn't work. It knows which audience will watch it and which audience won't, right? So your core audience stops being affected, and these one for you videos start getting shared to different audiences. So it unstagnates your growth if you're getting to that, and removes the bottleneck of creativity and burnout. So you're kind of doing the work in a long timeline instead of getting to a point where you burn out and you've capped that audience. You've now kind of grown your audience, not burnt out, and you've been building these sub audiences all along. So if you get to the point where that audience you've been building, you've narrowed down to just there's nowhere else you can go with it. You've run out of topics. But in the same time, you've also built this new audience up of content that you just absolutely love. And you've built a wider and wider net as well, to where a random thing within this big niche will now work. YouTube now knows how to share it to. It's a great way to make sure that you're serving your audience, you're building your channel, you're doing the work, you're keeping the creativity, and you're building slowly but surely, kind of dropping those seeds, bringing the other fish in that'll kind of like different styles of content. So you're building out from the core. If you're doing monthly videos, for example, I'd say this is less important. Or if you're doing something like this channel VidStew, for example, where, the entire content is built around our software and YouTube advice and it's very limited, this might not work for you. But if you're doing something like the Car Nerd or like a documentary channel like Johnny Harris, something like that, this is one I would follow, especially if you're on tight weekly deadlines. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, and check out 30-day trial of VidStew.